I was thinking about all the different metagames we had for Pokemon Sword and Shield, right? We had the Dynamax metagame, which is when it started. Then we had Dynamax Ban, which was pre-home. Then we had post-home. Then we had Olive Armor, and now we have the Crown Tundra. So I was kind of just thinking about Pokemon that have really had ups and downs throughout the past year, and I kind of just wanted to talk about them. So hopefully you guys enjoy this type of video. Feel free to give me your thoughts as well as we keep going and as we go through it. And if you aren't subscribed, feel free to subscribe. I upload Pokemon content daily. And let's get right into it. So this video is going to be Pokemon that kind of fell off in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the fact that Celebi is in the NU tier and stuff like that, but I'm talking about Pokemon that had highs in Pokemon Sword and Shield and now have lows, or are going up and down. So the first one I want to talk about is Galerion Corsola. When Galerion Corsola was first revealed, and in a Dynamax metagame nonetheless, with Pokemon like Dracovish and Galarian Darmanitan around, this Pokemon was such a giant threat. Being a physical wall, being pure ghost type, being able to block rapid spin, having attributes of not only having Stealth Rock, but having Will-O-Wisp and Strength Sap, and then Nightshade. This Pokemon was probably one of the premier physical walls of early Pokemon Sword and Shield. Its ability to live every hit, even Banded Fishious Wren from Dracovish, and just Strength Sap it all back. Darmanitan's Banded Icicle Crashes, physical attacks from Cinderace, even Dynamax moves from giant threats like Barraskewda and Gyarados, and then just simply Strength Sap them back or get the Cursed Body on the Pokemon. Like, it was so annoying having to fight this Pokemon, having that 30% chance. Just the Cursed Body is so annoying. If this Pokemon is hit by an attack, there's a 30% chance that move gets disabled. It was so frustrating because even if you could 2-hit KO with a move, like for example, like I said, Dracovish's Vicious Wren, the 30% chance to have it be canceled was crazy. So Corsola really had a presence in the beginning of the metagame. It was really good. Again, it was a good anti-Dynamax Pokemon. It was a good physical threat. But as the metagame evolved, Dynamax got banned. Corsola kind of fell off. You saw, as Dynamax is banned, you saw bulkier Pokemon take over. You obviously had things like Pex just running Toxic. Corsola just really didn't have its place. Clefable found its place in the meta as well. And Clefable just sets up all over Corsola too. And it really just started to fall off as the meta started to progress. And it's interesting because right now, what was once a high tier OU pick, right? OU by far, is now a PU Pokemon. It's almost in the lowest tier possible. It's crazy to think about because if you actually look at current OU, there's a few mons that Corsola can actually take on, and I want to do that as well. I want to talk about like my thoughts on it because I actually used Corsola recently in OU. And I used it to some success. Like it was able to wall Buzzwole, Barraskewda, Cinderace, Hawlucha, Dragonite, Excadrill, Garchomp. Like it can actually deal with quite a bit of mons, but obviously it has giant threats to have to deal with in the metagame itself, right? Like knockoff from every single Pokemon. Just being set up on Pokemon like Moltres not caring about Will-O-Wisp or anything, Toxic from Pex, and even just the fact that her Shifu's around and can go for wicked blows. So obviously right now I don't think it's in a perfect place in the metagame, but I do think that it is. PU is just because the usage stats are kind of crazy right now, but I do think it's a lot better than people are giving it credit for. But as Dynamax went, as Darmanitan went, as Dracovish inevitably went, and even then, like as a physical wall for Dracovish, people were more likely to use Pokemon like Seismitoad or even Toxapex than a Corsola that had to rely on the 30% chance / get the Strength Sap off. And then Dragapult found itself being higher in usage with things like Will-O-Wisp and Heck. So Corsola, like ghost types in general, offensively just became so much better. So Corsola just started to fall off a little bit. But I do think it has a little bit of use, if I'm being honest. Now, next up we have Rotom Wash. Now, Rotom Wash, it had quite a few sets that were really good during a Dynamax metagame. First off, Rotom Wash got Nasty Plot this generation, so it was huge, right? Rotom Wash, before even Sword and Shield, was the top Rotom, right? It was the top form pretty much always. Pretty much always, Rotom Wash has always either been OU or the top form in OU. I think the only other time, like the other Rotoms were OU at a time, was during DBP, when all the Rotom appliances were OU, and they weren't even like, they didn't have their secondary typing. They were all Electric Ghost, no matter what, except for Rotom Normal, they were all OU. So yeah, So Rotom got Nasty Plot this generation, and this is pretty cool. I think the electric water typing is really good, especially in early Dynamax metagame, because you had Pokemon like Barraskewda, Togekiss, and Gyarados really threatening a lot. And if Gyarados didn't run Power Whip, which it usually did, Rotom could just Dynamax back and knock it out with Max Lightning. Same thing with Barraskewda and things like that too. And it was funny because even though Pokemon Showdown had Max Knuckle, they had it coded wrong. It was like 140 base power before. Now obviously we know it's 90. Rotom would still be able to deal with hits and that. And it's just really good because it was a resistance also to Darmanitan, Galarian Darmanitan, Pokemon like Cinderace as well. And obviously in early Sword and Shield metagame, this Mon didn't have to deal with Rillaboom because Rillaboom wasn't really used because it didn't have the grassy terrain and grassy glide to abuse. So Rotom was a good early metagame Pokemon during Dynamax metagame just because of electric water being so good versus the flying spam and water spam being just that spammed during the beginning of the metagame. But as the meta began to shift and you saw more balances with Corviknight, Ferrothorn, Hippowdon, Toxapex type of thing, while Rotom in theory can deal with most of those Pokemon, it still can't break through something like Seismitoad. It still can't break through something like Ferrothorn. It can burn it, but still it takes too much damage. It gets knocked off and what's not. And then that became the rise, or that led to the rise of Rotom Heat. And for the first time in ever, Rotom Heat became the best Rotom in OU. Rotom Heat became the best Pokemon in the best Rotom form in OU because of the heavy duty boots, the combination of Toxic, and this was even before it got like, well, heavy duty boots in general was big for Nasty Plot Rotom, excuse me, because Nasty Plot, you'd see Nasty Plot with like Volt Switch type thing, Overheat, and it could actually threaten Ferrothorn and stuff like that. And then when Pokemon Home came out and you were able to get your Pain Split and your Toxic off on Rotom again, this Rotom dropped even lower, whereas Rotom Heat was able to Toxic now Pokemon like Seismitoad, and it could Pain Split and just abuse those abuse the heavy duty boots and its great dual typing, because fire and electric is really good because you're not walled by Ferrothorn. That's a big one, which is Rotom is. But yeah, Rotom being able to muscle through Pokemon like Corviknight, Ferrothorn, +2 Overheat was so nasty as well. Such a strong move too, and the plethora of Seismitoad in OU, which kind of stopped Rotom Wash because, like, I mean, obviously, Seismitoad also stops Rotom Heat too at that point in time because Seismitoad's everywhere because of Dracovish. But Rotom Heat just had the not only did it have the ability to threaten Ferrothorn, but it also resisted Fairy, which was a big thing, right? So it was resisting Clefable and was able to Nasty Plot and things like that. So that was a big key thing, especially because Clefable was running Wish. So that was a big key thing to let Rotom Wash just be up there and also be a better check to Pokemon like Volcarona later on and stuff like that. So Rotom Wash eventually fell down, Rotom Heat rose up, and since then Rotom Wash has been a good UU Pokemon, but outside of that it's not really a top tier OU Pokemon. And honestly, it's really tough to say because even though Rain is so good, even Rotom Wash's best thing is its resistance to water, right? But like, it doesn't want to take Surging Strikes in the rain that are banded. It doesn't want to come in on Barraskewda because Barraskewda just flip turns and it comes in and you bring out a better Pokemon to deal with it. So it's weird, and it's really weird for me to see a metagame where Rotom Wash isn't OU. And it's funny because current OU actually would benefit more from Rotom Wash, in my opinion, than the previous OU, just because Seismitoad is gone. So the ground types you see in the tier right now are Garchomp, Hippowdon, Landorus, Therian, and I believe, Nidoking. So, and Swampert. So those are all ground types you see right now in OU. So I actually think that Rotom has a chance to have some viability in the OU tier currently, more so than it had before. And you did see Rotom trying to adapt to like sub Nasty Plot and stuff like that. That was still a pretty poor set, in my opinion. But yeah, you did see Rotom do that. But yeah, Rotom just continued to fall down. Then you have Seismitoad, and Seismitoad was very much used after Dynamax got banned because it was probably the best answer to Dracovish because of its water absorb, and it was commonly paired with Wish Clefable, being able to bring it back up to health. And you see like a set like this, Stealth Rock Scald, Toxic, Earthquake, maybe the occasional knockoff, maybe the occasional Protect. I've seen some run Power Whip, but right now look at Seismitoad, look at the tier Seismitoad's in. Seismitoad's RU. There's no more Dracovish, right? So with Dragovich, Silent Toad was like on 40% of teams, something crazy like that. Like it had top 4 usage, and that was specifically because Dragovich was such a giant threat in the tier. But once Dragovich got banned, Seismitoad usage fell down. Now you do currently see Seismitoad sometimes on rain teams with obviously Swift Swim and like Weather Ball and stuff like that to abuse it. But if you look at current OU, again, in terms of ground type that can set up rocks, I have Hippo, I have Landers, I have Garchomp, so why go for the Seismitoad? In terms of water ground that can set up rocks, Swampert brings not only Stealth Rock but also Flip Turn, so it gives momentum, which is something that Seismitoad can't do. While Seismitoad does have that water absorbability, momentum is just, especially in Pokemon, it's just such a key thing. And if I want a physically defensive bulky water, I also would use Slowbro because I have Regenerator to heal myself, which is arguably better than Water Absorb. And I even have attributes, things like Future Sight that allow me to also help out other members. So Seismitoad ended up falling down after Dragovich went down, right? But when Dragovich was around, Seismitoad was hella high in usage. Now we have Rhyperior. So this Pokemon has seen OU and seen lower tiers. Right now it's NU, which is crazy to me that it's NU, but that's just because the usage stats are kind of wonky right now. But it's NU, and usually this Pokemon you'd see in RU, occasionally RU or UU. But Rhyperior's role in OU for a bit was this set right here: Swords Dance, Earthquake, Rock Blast, and Stealth Rock. And the 16 attack EVs and the 60 speed allow you to 2-hit KO a Powder at +2 with Earthquake, but also outspeed it as well. And then with Swords Dance and Rock Blast, you were beating Pokemon like Corviknight 1v1 while also keeping up your rocks. So you're beating the defoggers in the tier, like Rotom Heat, Corviknight, and Mandibuzz when you were running Swords Dance Rock Blast. And then there was a point where Rhyperior was running Choice Band sometimes in OU with Heat Crash, Earthquake, Stone Edge, and Megahorn. Megahorn was there for Pokemon like Tangrowth, as well as just in general for bulky Pokemon like that, Slowbro as well. So, and you even saw Swords Dance, Earthquake, Stone Edge, and Megahorn too, and the occasional Fire Punch. But Heat Crash was good just because, I mean, Rhyperior is a pretty, it weighs a lot. So yeah, you saw that a lot, especially in the Zeraora metagame. If you guys remember the Isle of Armor, Zeraora was a top tier Pokemon because of its high speed tier, close combat, Volt Switch, knockoff. You saw Dragapult in that metagame too. Cinderace and Magearna got banned, which actually opened up Rhyperior even more. Rhyperior was actually a really good check to Cinderace because Heat Ray wasn't around back then. It actually made Cinderace not run High Jump Kick as much. It was usually U-Turn, Gunk Shot, Pyro Ball, and Zen Headbutt as when it got Libero. So you saw Rhyperior around there. You even saw it run High Horsepower because it was a good partner with Rillaboom because it took the flying type attacks and it took the fire type attacks aimed at Rillaboom. And also Rhyperior appreciated the fact that Earthquake was weakened. Not its Earthquake, but Earthquake was weakened versus it. So it's cool for Hippowdon because you can run Swords Dance plus High Horsepower and break through. But now as you see the current metagame, Buzzwole's back. You have offensive Garchomp. You have Landers as well with Toxin, and Kartana's back too. Strong special attackers like Latios and Magearna's allowed in the tier as well, and then special attackers like Nidoking too. Now this is not to say, and then Lele and Coco runs Grass Knot, but that's not to say that Rhyperior wouldn't be good. I mean, one of the best Pokemon in the tier right now is Zapdos, and Rhyperior walls every attack coming out from Zapdos unless it's Weather Ball in some type of weather, like whether it is rain or hail. Rhyperior walls Volt Switch, it walls Thunderbolt, runs Discharge, it walls Hurricane, it walls Heat Wave, right? It doesn't care at all. It just doesn't care about Toxic or Weather Ball right there. So I think Rhyperior actually could have a place in the tier, but I think this heavily depends on certain Pokemon being banned. Right now, Pheromosa is on many teams, right? Because it's probably the best Pokemon in OU currently. But Pheromosa is currently being suspect tested, so if this thing ends up being banned, you might see a rise of Rhyperior just because Moltres, Heatran, and Zapdos are so popular in the tier. So this is actually, in my opinion, also I missed Extra Drill for a ground type before. This is actually, in my opinion, a time where Rhyperior could be at its highest, right, at its peak, but it's just the fact that one Pokemon is allowed that it's making it not be ran, in my opinion. That's like my actual opinion when it comes to Rhyperior, and I do think that again it will see resurgence in usage. We will see it come back basically at a point. I don't know if it'll stay OU, whatever, but I definitely think we'll see it whether it be tournaments or just this play, especially if Pokemon like Cinderace and Magearna are eventually looked at I don't know if they're broken right now. They're not, in my opinion. Maybe Magearna, but yeah. Especially as like just being a ground type, because Pokemon like Regieleki are on the tier, and like it's like Coco Grass doesn't kill, so even with Solid Rock and stuff like that, it's a really good bulky one. But right now the offensive ground types are Garchomp, Lando, and Excadrill that are putting in the most work, and then the defensive ones are ones I mentioned before, like Swampert and Powder. So, but overall, when the tier starts to stabilize, I think that Rhyperior will be a great balance breaker, a great addition to balance, and a good choice band like wall breaker in itself. The last Pokemon. This is a funny Pokemon because for the longest time, Chansey was better than Blissey because of the Violite being allowed, and Violite obviously making its bulk be 1.5 times on the special and physical side. So that was really good because, I mean, it had basically the defense of a Pokemon like Swampert because of its high HP stat and the Violite itself. So Chansey for the longest time was an OU threat, and Blissey had actually moved down to UU. Now it's the exact opposite. Chansey is UU, Blissey is OU. Why is this? Because of heavy duty boots. Hazards are an immense part of Pokemon, especially singles, right? Especially OU. So Chansey, one of the ways a lot of people would break stall or deal with Chansey is they would basically hazard stack with a breaker, right? You'd have or like even Ferrothorn, but in previous generations you'd have Greninja out versus a Pokemon that it beats, right? Let's say Skarmory's out on the other side, or whatever is out on the other side that beats Greninja, like it's a Heatran or a Hippowdon or a Rhyperior, right? That's on the other side. Greninja would be out Ash Greninja, and it would go for Spike on the switch as they go Chansey. Eventually you have 2 layers of Spike, 3 layers of Spike up, whatever, Stealth Rock, to the point where you could Dark Pulse or Hydro Pump and deal with Chansey with some aggressive doubles. And that was one of the ways they could deal with it, and that's no different in this generation. We have plenty of Spikers, we have good Stealth Rockers, and then now we have heavy duty, and we have a lot of knockoff, and that makes a big thing too. A lot of Pokemon have knockoff right now. Ferrothorn's running it, Toxapex is running it, which is something like last generation that was a little bit more rare when it came to those Pokemon. But now they 100% like running because Boots is everywhere. But Chansey being not only worn down by hazards, but also the fact that if it loses its Violite, I mean, it has a 5 base defense. You see it right there, right? That's why enter Blissey. Blissey has the option of running heavy duty boots, so it doesn't have to worry about the hazard damage. Not only that, but there's also a huge jump in special attack from base 35 to base 75. So Blissey can still run the same set as Chansey if it wants to, right? Like technically you could still run this same set, and this will give you like your go-to physical special wall Blissey type of thing that can deal with Volcarona and can wear down Pokemon. But Blissey can also drop one of these for favor of Shadow Ball, so you don't lose to Nasty Plot Spectrier or Spectrier, Taunt Spectrier, so you can beat Sub Spectrier as well. It can also run Teleport, so Teleport gives it momentum, and just being able to pivot in, not have to worry about hazards, and also not get completely shut down if you get knocked off, right? Obviously the whole point of Blissey is to come in, not worry about hazards, take the special hit, softball it up, and just beat special attackers, toxic them, wear them down, seismic toss them, teleport out if it needs to, Thunder Wave, potentially, or Wish Pass your team, whatever you want to end up using with Blissey. Even if it gets knocked off and you start taking hazard damage, Blissey still has better stats than Chansey, so it's not as useless as Chansey, basically, when it gets knocked off. So that's like the big difference, and because of that, Chansey inevitably fell down to the UU tier, whereas Blissey found itself now as OU's staple special wall once again, something that it hasn't seen since Gen 5. Gen 4 obviously as well, but in Gen 5 both Blissey and Chansey were OU, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, we can check right now. I'm pretty sure both of them were OU. Yep, both Blissey and Chansey was UUBL in Gen 5. But Blissey was OU. I also think that, like, I mean, I know a lot of this has to do with weather and stuff, and this thing can run leftovers, the thing has to run a Violite, but I don't know if in tournaments if that's the case, because I definitely saw a lot of Chansey in tournaments. But yeah, that's all I had to say. If you guys have any more Pokemon to add to the list, I would love to know your thoughts, why these Pokemon dropped, what Pokemon you think kind of fell up and down. And again, I wasn't going to say, like, oh, the fact that Celebi is, that's not the tier. This is not the tier we're looking at right now. Let's look at OU, because Celebi is definitely not OU. But the fact that Celebi is, like, in the NU tier now, right, or Terrakion is, well, UU, but like things like that. I wasn't necessarily talking about that, but I was talking about Pokemon that had like a high or a peak at some point, and even then Chansey is one that kind of like, it was OU for a bit but fell down, and I mean, I wanted to explain why. But yeah, guys, hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, give me a list of Pokemon that you think did the exact same thing as what I talked about. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.